Me too, Ricky, but I feel like as I'm getting older. Oh, we're live.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Lancaster City Human Relations Commission quarterly town hall meeting. Again, a little background on Lancaster City's Human Relations Commissions, because I don't think that our area knows enough. Let me go over a couple things about the commission. So Lancaster City Human Relations Commission positively promotes the cause of human rights in the city of Lancaster by working to eliminate discrimination through citizen action, education, and enforcement. The commission promotes equal access to the social, cultural, recreational, and economic life of our city by administering and enforcing the city human relations ordinance. This ordinance provides for the equal treatment of all persons in employment practices, access to housing and commercial property, education, public accommodations, lending practices, and real estate practices in the city of Lancaster, without regard to the sexual orientation or gender identity, familial, marital status, or pregnancy, guide dog or support animals, race, color, religion, ancestry, or national origin, gender, including sexual harassment, age, handicap, or disability, possession of a GED. If you feel like you have been discriminated against and have an actionable offense or have a question, you can always phone us at 717-735-6250. You can also visit Lancaster City's website. We do have monthly meetings open to the public, held every third Saturday of the month at 1 p.m., excluding July and December months via Zoom currently while we cannot meet in person. So if you'd like to join us, please visit the website to learn more. And let's get started with tonight's program. We are very excited to introduce our guest. We have Jason Goodman, Executive Director of the Pennsylvania Youth Congress. We have Ricardo Almodovar, Commissioner on the Pennsylvania Advisory Commission on LGBTQ plus affairs. And we have our community member, Dustin Bailey Brown, Lancaster creator of Inside the Drag Closet podcast. And without further ado, let's get to Jason Goodman. He's going to talk a little bit about House Bill 300 of legislation efforts, how the community can support the effort to protect the LGBTQIA plus community. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much. Thank you to all of the commissioners who have put together this event in Lancaster and for your invitation tonight. My name is Jason Landau Goodman. I'm the founding executive director of the Pennsylvania Youth Congress. PYC was actually formed 10 years ago yesterday as our statewide LGBTQ youth organization. So working as teens and 20-somethings and young Pennsylvanians to make sure we have a voice in local and state government. At the time we were forming, we did not have a platform for young LGBTQ folks to be able to come together and make change in our communities and ultimately at the state level. And so we built this new organization, and for the past 10 years have been doing a lot of really important work in our Commonwealth. I'm personally from Montgomery County, right outside of Philadelphia, but I have lived part-time in Harrisburg for about 7 years now. So I'm very familiar with Lancaster City and have been so inspired to see how much growth has happened in terms of the LGBT community locally in advancing and providing safe spaces. And there's lots of wonderful local resources I'm sure we'll go into later. But my job tonight is really to talk about sort of the state policy landscape. Let's see, I have some notes here to go in order. Yes, so also just by way of a little bit more introduction on the Pennsylvania Youth Congress. So we have, as a group of young LGBTQ folks, we're also currently our only statewide LGBT advocacy organization, which means we've taken on a lot of work on the ground. So you may have heard of us through our work on ordinances. We've helped pass numerous local non-discrimination ordinances, most recently in Shippensburg and Gettysburg. and there's another one on the way soon in central Pennsylvania as well. We have worked on school board policies, particularly for trans students to have inclusionary practices within our public schools. We wrote the proposal for the Governor's Commission on LGBTQ Affairs, which you'll hear about more shortly. And we now have been leading the effort for comprehensive statewide non-discrimination protection. So wrap up by talking about our campaign, our public support campaign called Pennsylvania Values. If you have any questions, I'm just giving the primer. Please, I guess, put them in the chat. And oh no, we're doing questions later at the end. So save your questions and we'll be good. So Pennsylvania, as many of you know, and just to share this if you don't, we are one of the states that does not have comprehensive statewide protections explicitly under law for sexual orientation and gender identity. That means our State Human Relations Act, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, which protects people based on classes like race, sex, religion, doesn't specifically say there are protections for LGBT folks. That has been, there's attempts to write that in through the courts or provide that through guidance. But as of right now, we're not explicitly protected. So this state law, the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act, is the enabling statute for local commissions such as yours. And many of these local commissions in Pennsylvania have expanded their protected classes to include specifically sexual orientation and gender identity. We now have at least 69 local non-discrimination ordinances in Pennsylvania that protect LGBT people. Lancaster, you passed yours in 2001, so happy 20 years this year. But protecting LGBT, adding LGBT protections and your commission. So the first ordinance was passed in 1982 in Philadelphia. It was just on sexual orientation at the time. Harrisburg passed theirs in 1983 with sexual orientation and gender identity. So the fact that we now have 69 of these ordinances is huge. It's more than any other state in the nation without a statewide law. We beat Florida way a long time ago. So it speaks to the need for us to have statewide protections that are uniform. No matter where you go, you have explicit protections. And you've probably seen information from the court case last year, which was interpreting a federal employment non-discrimination law, which has read in sexual orientation and gender identity into Title VII. Again, this federal law, but it's only applicable to certain employees. So, certain employers that have 15 or more employees, and there's other differences. But the bottom line is we need statewide protections. You have this patchwork going on in Pennsylvania, and we have employment non-discrimination protections only for some employees from the federal level, but we just need this explicitly. So the first bill on this issue was actually introduced in 1976. So this issue goes way back, way before I was born. That bill was only on sexual orientation at the time, but there have been numerous bills. There's well over 100 LGBT equality bills that have been introduced in the legislature since. Most recently, the past 2 decades, they have been consistently introduced with sexual orientation and gender identity protections. We have those bills introduced every session and they don't move. We got out of committee once in 2010, I think it was. That was when I was just coming on the scene in advocacy, but it did not move. And so our job now is to continue the education and not fall, into these, really challenging moments. And when we're faced with being on defense, like their trans youth sports ban bill that was filed just a couple of weeks ago. We've been very involved in helping educate legislators and encourage them to not move that bill. That's going in the wrong direction. But it's in the larger conversation of making sure LGBT people are not written out of public life, particularly young, vulnerable trans folks, but that we're providing these essential protections in housing, employment, and public accommodations. So numerous bills will again be introduced this session. Right now, HB 300, I know that's been mentioned, that was more of the bill that was introduced 10 or so years ago, and it really was branded as HB 300. There have been different names in the past. One of them from 5 or 6 years ago was called the Fairness Act. We really just refer to it now as statewide LGBT non-discrimination legislation. And the first bill that was introduced this session is by the longest serving ally for us on non-discrimination legislature, Senator Pat Brown from Lehigh Valley. He's a Republican and has been supportive of these issues, and that's SB 313. But we know more bills are coming in the House from Representative Frankel, who's been on this issue, and numerous other representatives, Kenyatta, Sims, and Benham, who are out members of the legislature, joining him. And then Senator Saval and Senator Santiago from Southeastern Pennsylvania will be introducing another bill in the Senate. So this is the conversation that's happening now. Education is so super important with lawmakers to make sure they understand that these protections are essential, they're fundamental, these are not special rights, that we love religious liberty, and these protections don't infringe on your constitutional rights. They have existed and persisted on all of the other sorts of protected classes for decades. So I guess I probably have a few more minutes. I just wanted to share screen, and if that's okay, to share with you our public support campaign. And that was the other thing I was asked to share is just how to get involved. So I'm going to, is there a list of, oh, that's a question, which I guess I can get to. So let's see. First, I'm going to share my screen. Are we good with the share screen? Fabulous. So this is actually just on our main website, the Pennsylvania Youth Congress. If you go to payouthcongress.org, and then you go to the top where it says Take Action and Local Non-Discrimination. We have an interactive map of where all these local non-discrimination ordinances are in the state. So you can sort of zoom in there and see Lancaster City right there. But this is, the territory in our Commonwealth that has these basic protections. When I was starting as a teenager in this work, helping get a non-discrimination ordinance in my hometown in southeastern Pennsylvania, in Montgomery County, we were the first in our county and first township in the state. And now we have over 20 in our county alone. So this work has definitely expanded over the past decade. But we list all of the ordinances and have links to their text as a resource. So then, oops, I can't see. There we go. So this is our campaign website. It's called Pennsylvania Values, because non-discrimination protections and equal access for all are Pennsylvania values. We have information sheets on just basic facts on what this bill is about, and then we have our public support side. So you can click on Business and Employer Coalition, and you'll see our over 30 chambers of commerce we have, including, you'll see, pass it, Chamber Lancaster. There you are, there's Lancaster Chamber. So that's the Lancaster Chamber. And this is a great opportunity if you have a small business or you have influence over any business in Pennsylvania, or that does business in Pennsylvania. On the right side of this page, you can sign up your business. And we're happy to work with you to get that going. In the previous effort, there were several hundred businesses that had signed on. So we need to more than double that. We certainly have Fortune 500 companies and these chambers and all sorts of different other stakeholders on board, but we need your help to get the message out there that the business community is certainly more than there on this issue. Also, if you have faith communities, we have our open letter from faith leaders, and that you can sign right here. And we have public support letters from all of the bishops in Pennsylvania, from the Lutheran, Episcopal, and Methodist traditions. And we welcome all faith backgrounds to come together and support. We do have we have almost 50 colleges and universities on board, but if you see, your alma mater is missing. I know we have PCAT on here, Franklin and Marshall, bunch of other schools in the region, but please, engage your folks. But really, this is the tool I want to show you. This is what any citizen, and person in our community can do. you click the Take Action button right here, and that'll direct you to our Take Action page, and you can select your municipality. And then from there, it'll be directing you to your state senator and your state representative. So here's just clicking on one senator, and it takes you to a form, and you just fill out your information. You can edit your message, and it goes right to your legislator. So that's a great action that's really easy to take quickly. So again, you can go to pavalues.org, and that has all the information on how to take action and help us get the word out there and get more public support. But beyond that, I would just, wrapping up, how do I stop share? Stop share, there we go. I would just encourage you to continue the conversations you're having in our democracies. In our democracy, conversation and education is how we create change. And so, yes, we have our talking points. Yes, we have all of these urgent policy matters at hand. But really, it's about moving your neighbors, their hearts and minds on this issue that LGBT people deserve dignity and respect, and that includes basic protections under the law. I'll be happy to take any questions later. And thank you all so much for participating in tonight's program.
Wow, Jason, you brought it. I love that energy and all of what you shared. And I'm so happy that all of that is happening and the call to action. And it's pretty simple to just go there. I love how easy it is. There's really not an excuse not to get behind it. And I also apologize that I did not read your bio at the beginning. I just got so excited and went into the program. So are you still practicing law?
Yes, so I had the wonderful joy of graduating law school and passing the bar right before COVID. So I am technically a lawyer now. I helped form the Pennsylvania Youth Congress while I was in college in Philadelphia, and then have stuck with it through my master's and then eventually law school in Pittsburgh. Yes, I'm a lawyer now too. So it's an additional credential, I guess, for the work in Harrisburg. Being in the Capitol this morning, it's helpful, but it's all of us together. You don't have to be a lawyer to be an advocate.
I love what you're doing, your advocacy and standing for people and standing for people's rights to be, and including people like the clergy. And I have a couple questions, but I guess I'll reserve my questions to the end. And maybe at this time we can go over that slide, Mark, just to go over the acronym. Is that okay to be out of order? Just before we move further, since we're throwing around the LGBTQT, and I'm kind of like, do you want the IA plus still, or what's the most appropriate?
Is that a question for all of us, or?
Sure, or Mark. Mark's muted though. He was going to go over the slide if we can get to it. Maybe I put him on the spot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I'm also trying to get the screen sharing to work again. For some reason, it's not showing. Here we go.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, so this, just to make sure that people are kind of familiar with the LGBTQIA plus acronym. When I started, it was just gay years and years ago, and then gradually different letters got added. I think most people are familiar with some of the first four: lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. And you do have some people using different words for transgender. Sometimes people just say trans, and still sometimes you see transsexual. That's kind of an outdated term, I would say, for most people now. The Q is either queer, which means which was a kind of an inclusive term that came up probably about 20 years ago. Some people still see that as a negative. It's also used for questioning, for people that aren't sure of their identity. Intersex has some different meanings, and it really kind of says that you don't really fit specific gender norms of either male or female. And it can also be used for some who were born with an anatomy that is not quite male or female as we traditionally define it. A is many times used as allies, and it could also be asexual, which means that you're not really attracted to either sex. And androgynous is people that have both male and female traits. And then the plus is to kind of cover a lot of other groups. Two-spirit is a term that Native Americans use to describe a third gender. There's polyamorous, demisexual, and a lot of genderqueer is some of the other ones. It's just trying to be as inclusive as possible. And I don't know, does anyone else have anything to add to that definition? Okay, we can.
That was great. That was wonderful.
Okay, well, I will move to our next panelist. We have Ricardo Almodovar, or Ricky, as his friends call him. Ricardo was born and raised in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. He graduated from McCaskey High School and later earned his associate's degree in social science from Harrisburg Area Community College. He continued at Millersville University and graduated with a dual major. After graduation, he worked as a community organizer at Make the Road, PA, and helped open their organizing center in Allentown in 2016. Subsequently, he moved back to his hometown and helped open another organizing center in Lancaster for CASA, Pennsylvania in 2019. Amid the COVID-19 crisis, he's kept busier than ever. He completed a digital organizing fellowship with the Democratic National Committee in 2020. He is vice chair for the Lancaster City Democratic Committee. He serves as a board member with the Lancaster LGBTQ+ Coalition and the Keystone Business Alliance, Central PA's LGBTQ+ Chamber of Commerce. He serves as a commissioner for the Pennsylvania Advisory Commission on LGBTQ+ affairs. He currently works full-time as an organizing associate for the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center, a nonpartisan research organization that provides independent and credible analysis on public policy and the Pennsylvania state budget. His focus is on the We the People Pennsylvania, BPBC's grassroots-driven campaign, where he organizes community conversations, candidate forums, and workshops on state-level issues impacting Pennsylvanians. Welcome, Ricky.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for organizing this event, and thank you, Jason and Dustin, for joining us this evening as well. I'm honored to be here in your presence. But yeah, my name is Ricardo. As Jasmine mentioned, I'm an organizing associate for the Pennsylvania Budget and Policy Center, and I focus on We the People Pennsylvania, right, in our legislative agenda. We're a nonpartisan research organization, as she mentioned, and so a lot of folks, our team members focus heavily on public policy and the state budget, and analyzing all of that information, all of that data, facts and figures, right? And so our team decided it wasn't enough to collect all of that information. Our communities deserve more. So We the People Pennsylvania campaign was created in 2018 from the ground up by people and organizations that met across the Commonwealth to make state government work for all of us. And so We the People PA is a grassroots-driven initiative with a coalition of grassroots organizations, including CASA, Make the Road, One PA, Union Support, and in 2020, we've received the official endorsement of more than 140 candidates and state legislators, including Representatives Mike Sturla here in Lancaster, Malcolm Kenyatta, Joanna McClinton, Brian Sims, and Senators Vincent Hughes and Katie Muth. So my background is community organizing in Spanish language. After graduating from Millersville, I accepted a position with Make the Road. I lived in Allentown for about 3 years. I helped start Amor y Rabia, which in Spanish means love and rage. And Amor y Rabia is Make the Road's LGBTQ+ committee. And so we provide a safe and brave space to meet and organize on different issues. And we fought against Trump's trans ban in the military, the trans youth exclusion in CHIP, and other anti-LGBTQ+ initiatives across the state, not just in Allentown. So I moved back to Lancaster to continue my organizing work in my hometown with CASA, Pennsylvania. And both CASA and Make the Road organize and mobilize communities of color to build power for justice. So after passing the torch and leaving CASA in 2019, I worked for the DNC as a digital organizing fellow while serving as a committee person for the Lancaster City Democrats. And as she mentioned, as Jasmine mentioned, on their current vice chair. I just wanted to also share that, I'm here as Ricardo. I do not represent the views of my employer or for the Democrats, but I share my story and my journey in hopes that it inspires folks to take action. So let's talk about what's going on at the state. Jason has covered a ton, and thank you for your work. I met Jason, I'd say maybe a decade ago, and we've been working in different ways in different cities, and I'm happy that we get to cross paths again. So let's talk about the commission. What is the LGBTQ plus commission? Some of you might know we have a Latino commission, a women's commission, an African American commission, and a few others. So the Pennsylvania Commission on LGBTQ plus Affairs is the first of its kind in the nation. It was established by an executive order by Governor Tom Wolf in August 2018. Our goal is to advise the governor on state agencies regarding policies, programs, and legislation that impact LGBTQ plus communities and to serve as a resourceful intermediary between LGBTQ plus communities and state government. It is composed of appointed commissioners from across the Commonwealth, each acting as a representative and advocate for LGBTQ plus communities. The commission is comprised of LGBTQ plus executive directors, lawyers, organizers, consultants, medical professionals, legislators, journalists, political operatives, educators, as well as allies. So the committees within the LGBTQ plus commission are aging, health, youth and youth services, housing, legislation and policy, arts, culture, and events. I serve on the legislation and policy committee. So you may have heard that a contingency of Republican state representatives introduced legislation through House Bill 972 to bar trans women and girls from playing sports with cis women and girls. Sadly, we also know that even if these bills are defeated, they cause harm to members in the trans community. And this bill was introduced by a Representative Gleam on April 5th of this year with around 25 co-sponsors. So the LGBTQ plus commission has been communicating with senior staff in the governor's office to secure a veto commitment from Governor Wolf. And this is their statement by Lindsay Kensinger, who's a press secretary to Governor Wolf, who said that the governor has been clear. Hate has no place in Pennsylvania, and that includes discrimination, she said. Any legislation designed to deny opportunity to certain children is both disturbing and dangerous. Trans youth should know that they belong, that they are valued, and that their participation in school activities is welcomed. Benefits of LGBTQ plus diversity, equity, and inclusion spans beyond the trans community because all kids benefit from being in communities with kids that are different from them, socioeconomically, racially, geographically, gender, and all of these ways. Part of a larger fight for LGBTQ plus inclusion and non-discrimination to make our world more equitable. Sadly, there are more than 100 anti-trans bills currently being considered in the US. We need to tackle these problems in a number of ways. Let's address some of these problems now. So LGBT people face discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations. A 2013 study found that nationally, 21% of LGBTQ plus respondents have been treated unfairly in their jobs by an employer in hiring, promotion, or pay. And this reality has not improved in the past 10 years. A 2017 study found that 22% of LGBTQ plus individuals report discrimination in being paid or promoted equally. 20% reported discrimination when applying for a job, and 22% report discrimination when trying to rent or buy a home. In 2010, one of the largest surveys of transgender persons found that transgender individuals face harassment or mistreatment at work at a rate of 78%. 47% report being discriminated against in hiring, promotion, or job retention because of their gender identity. A more recent survey in 2016 found that in the year prior to the survey, 30% of transgender individuals who had jobs reported that they were fired, denied a promotion, or faced other mistreatment on the job due to their gender identity or expression. Discrimination and harassment against LGBTQ+ individuals also has a financial impact on LGBTQ people as well as businesses. Same-sex couples, men in this case, earn a median income that is nearly 20% less than married men in heterosexual couples. In states that have non-discrimination laws against LGBTQ+ people, this wage gap is smaller. 29% of transgender individuals live in poverty compared to 12% of the US population. And transgender individuals face higher rates of unemployment, 15% compared to 5% of the US population. Nearly 1/3, 30% of transgender respondents reported having been homeless at one point in their lives, and 12% in the year prior to the survey. Discrimination hurts the economic performance of businesses in the areas of recruitment, retention, and negatively affecting workers' job performance and productivity. Many businesses in Pennsylvania understand the importance of non-discrimination policies within their own business. Over 400 businesses and all of the Fortune 500 companies headquartered in Pennsylvania have their own non-discrimination policies. Despite widespread discrimination of LGBTQ+ individuals, Pennsylvania currently has no statewide law in place to prohibit discrimination on the basis of sexual orientation or gender identity. Federal law does not explicitly protect against these types of discrimination either. As a result, Pennsylvania's approximately 276,000 residents who identify as LGBTQ+ can be denied employment, housing, and public accommodation on the basis of their sexual orientation or gender identity. The exception is for individuals who live, work, or spend time in one of the state's 51 municipalities that have enacted protections at the local level, and for individuals working at companies that have their own anti-discrimination policies. So how can you get involved? I am passionate about creating change because our communities deserve better, and we all deserve to live authentically as our whole selves. We must also pay homage to our predecessors who have fought tooth and nail to get us this far, and we stand on their shoulders, and their sacrifice should not be in vain. Fortunately, we can all take collective action for LGBTQ+ liberation, equity, and inclusion, but we all must do our part. And we need people to speak out. We need people to call lawmakers against these harmful anti-trans bills. We need to shut down these discriminatory bills as soon as they're introduced. Trans people will still exist whether there's legislation or not, and they deserve safety and support. I also encourage folks to write an op-ed or a blog post. Listen, if you can write on Facebook, if you can rant, rabble-rouse, you can write a letter to the editor, you can write an op-ed. We need to tackle all of these issues through all of these different angles, and we can all do our part. And we need to make sure we fight against bills like House Bill 972, which is so damaging to trans youth. I'm not sure how much more time we have here, but I wanted to pass it back to you, Jasmine. Thank you for having me.
Wow, I completely felt so many things that you brought up there, and echoing the statement from Governor Wolf's team, like, I'm disturbed that is the reality. So I'm just even more grateful for this conversation and getting it out to the public. And again, if you are in Lancaster City and you do feel that you've been discriminated against, you are a protected class in our city. And I'm very proud to report that. And I'm proud to be a part of Lancaster City Human Relations Commission, because I'm all for everyone living their authentic self, because why not? It doesn't make sense. And like you said, despite the bills, there's still going to be trans people there. So great, you have your bill. What does that prove? So enough of me. Let's get back to our third and final panelist, a friend of mine who I've gotten to see throughout our community here in Lancaster City. He's graced us with his wonderful service at some of the best locations here, and he is quite the beauty and just the spirit. Let us introduce you to Dustin Bailey Brown. He is the podcast creator for Inside the Drag Closet, which I'm hoping that he shares a link for you guys to check that show out. And he tells you a little bit more about when you can view that via Facebook. Dustin Brown was born and raised in Lancaster County. After graduation, his interest in music, the arts, fine cuisine, and hospitality began to thrive. His career in fine dining began in 2008 upon the opening of Fenn's Restaurant. I so miss Fenn's Restaurant. Okay. Under the guide of Lancaster's late, great Robert Fenninger. There he was able to fine-tune his skills, climbing the ladder to management, which led him to work for the world-renowned pastry chef and chop champion, Cedric Barbaret of Bistro Barbaret, as well as for the Lancaster finest, the Belvedere. He currently works for one of the oldest running restaurants here in Lancaster, the Stockyard Inn. Shortly after coming out at age 18, his passion for the stage was quickly acknowledged, and the persona now known as Amethyst Diamond was created. The art of drag, now a worldwide Main Street phenomena, has allowed Dustin to travel the local as well as tri-state areas, entertaining and bringing love and light to the world through his artistic expression. It's given him a voice and a platform to embrace and educate not only the LGBTQIA plus community, but also bring awareness to those who are misinformed of the many subcultures of our society. He believes that only through love, tolerance, respect, education, and fellowship will we rise onward and upward. Let's hear it for Dustin Bailey Brown, AKA Amethyst Diamond, AKA just a pretty awesome human being.
You're awesome, Jasmine. Thank you so much. I didn't realize how long-winded that bio would be. So sorry,
And I
everybody.
cut a little bit out of it.
You know, I have like 3 minutes left here to talk to you tonight. But first off, Ricky, I got to say how proud of you I am. You've come such a long way since I've known you. I've known you for probably about 11 years now. And from the person I met then to the person you are now, you are an awesome individual. You are a fighter for our community, and I have so much love and respect for you. It's not even funny. Same with Mark over here. You've been fighting the good fight for a long time. You and I have known each other for some time as well. So thank you very much for being here and for being a part of this. And Jasmine, even you for your successes in life, for being, you know, Penn Manor alumni, so to speak. You know, you've come such a long way. You've grown, and you are such a boss in the community. So let me just start out by saying thank you for having me here tonight. So yes, I'm here to discuss the microaggressions felt in the LGBTQIA plus community, given my personal experience in life. And I'm going to say the overall thesis of my TED Talk here is going to be about creating a proper narrative by using the appropriate vocabulary and terminology. There's a lot of new things being introduced to our community, a lot of fear and misunderstanding and miseducation. As Jasmine was saying, I am one of 4 co-hosts on a podcast that airs on Facebook called Inside the Drag Closet. I have been a drag entertainer for about 22 years now. Through the art of drag, I've been able to embrace and educate those out there who are misinformed and uneducated. And it gives me a platform and a way for people to stand up and pay attention to what I have to say. You know, it takes a big lashes and a sparkly gown for people to turn around and pay attention to you. And if that's the case, so be it. As you can see, there are some lovely wigs back here behind me because I am in my drag studio at the moment, coming to you live. You know, the art of drag has been a blessing for me because it's given me a voice and a platform in which to stand up for those in the community who do not have a voice or a platform. Inside the Drag Closet airs on Wednesday nights, every Wednesday night at 8:30 on Facebook Live. You can also find it on YouTube as well, Spotify. We are broadcasted out of a New York station in New York, WLFE-DB radio as well. But Facebook Live, 8:30s on Wednesdays. As I said, I am one of 4 co-hosts, and I am on the 1st and 4th week of every month. So you can find me there. We talk about all things drag and some things that aren't. It's an interactive podcast to where you can ask questions live about absolutely anything. Nothing is off limits. We put everything out there because until you really embrace that vulnerability, you can't move forward. You have to be your true authentic self, and we try to be superheroes for those out there that don't have, again, a platform or a voice. So talking about some microaggressions here in the LGBT community, the first one that comes to mind is going to be the pronouns. As you can see, Mark, Ricardo, myself, we all have our pronouns that say he/him or his next to our name. Just because we don't often understand doesn't mean we aren't supposed to embrace that person or try to understand, because ignoring it tells that person that you don't care. It's okay if you don't understand, reach out to them and ask questions. They're not going to turn you down if you approach it from a place of love and respect. You know, there's the he, him, his pronouns, she, her, hers pronouns, and there's actually they and them pronouns. The they, them often confuses a lot of people because we are taught that that is a plural pronoun, as it is more than one. For those that use they and them, they don't identify as a male or female. You know, they are not controlled by their physical bodies. Their gender is in their mind. So they go by they or them. Whether or not it's comfortable for you or not is none of their business. And it should not matter what you say, because your opinion is null and void at that point. Reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I'm your friend, I love you, I don't understand, please educate me on the matter, will get you miles ahead of everybody else. So just knowing that it's okay to reach out and say, you know what, I don't know about these things. Me, myself, I'm just speaking on my own personal, you know, my little gay boy life that I've had. You know, I'm 41, I've lived a good life so far, and I've been through a lot, so I can only speak on my own personal experiences. Thank you, Jason, for your political insight as well as Ricardo. I'm not very well versed in those issues, so having that information for me to educate myself, thank you for that. Moving on, some other issues in the LGBTQIA+ community, trans people in sports, the bathroom issue as well. You know, how many of us can go in the bathroom, and how many of you actually care what anybody else is doing? That's what I don't understand. It's not a matter of, you know, what's in your pants. We go to the bathroom for one of two reasons. So, you know, A or B, that's what you're doing. Some other issues as far as vocabulary and terminology, using the word gay to describe things that are stupid or weird. You know, we say, oh, that's gay. Well, that's not correct, because you are associating gay with things that aren't normal, things that you think are stupid, things that you find weird or unattractive. Using that word to describe those things is incorrect. Stop doing it. Next, in general, the LGBTQIA+ community is demonized because we are seen as a sexual deviant. We are seen as derogatory, or, you know, no religion, unreligion, something like that. Lack of religion, lack of intelligence, maybe. But that's fine as well. People view us as sexual deviants, especially someone like myself who is a female impersonator or drag entertainer. They associate me with being a pedophile or wanting to actually be a woman or making a mockery of the female gender. That is not the case. I use drag as a platform. I use drag to empower and embody women and the rights of women. I am a Power Ranger for for the LGBTQIA+ community and females all around. So it does not mean that I want to be a woman or I will ever change to be a woman. It is an art form. It is not a way of life. Also, saying that someone doesn't fit the mold or stereotypes that are associated with a certain sector of the LGBTQIA+ community, such as saying you don't look gay. While there are those of us in the community that can be associated with, that is not appropriate to use. Saying that someone doesn't look a certain way or act a certain way does not identify them as what you think they are. So, like I said, again, we're just talking about the vocabulary and the terminology. Words matter. Words matter big time, especially in today's PC world. Everybody wants to be well represented and properly represented as well. As far as young kids growing up, saying that it's just a phase or that kids aren't old enough to make these decisions, they are. I know when I was 11 years old, I knew I was different. I was 11 years old. That was 30 years ago. But, you know, kids know what direction their life is going to take, whether you think they do or not. They pay attention, they listen, they are highly influenced by things around them. So that's why it's so important for us to make sure we are using the right terminology and educating our kids on these matters, because you don't want them out there not knowing and second guessing, because there's danger out there. There is. Fear comes from lack of understanding. And that fear, well, here we are in 2020, we survived that year. So, you know, it's just important to embrace those kids. It's never too young to teach kids about gender identity, sexual orientation, anything, basis of sex. Talk to your kids. It will make them smarter. It will make them more respectful. They will respect themselves first and foremost. And when you do that, you respect others in the foresight. Understanding that there is no such thing as homophobia or transphobia. I'm going to say that again. There is no such thing as homophobia or transphobia. A phobia is a clinically diagnosed mental illness in which hate and bigotry are not. Hate and bigotry is something that is taught. If saying you have a phobia of gay people or trans people or Islamophobia, you don't fear them. It's a hatred. And a phobia is a clinically diagnosed mental illness. The proper terminology, which I actually just learned today, is homomisia. The subtext of that is M-I-S-I-A, misia. So homomisia and transmisia. Misia is derived from the Greek language for the word hate or hatred. So we need to remember homophobia is the incorrect terminology. You're not afraid, you're just hateful and you're a bigot. So transmisia and homomisia is the correct terminology. And I can share some of that information in the chat later on or answer any questions further. But keep in mind, everybody, that words matter, and it's important to spread love and light. It's one of the most, it will cost you absolutely nothing to be kind and generous. And that is the overall, that's what I want you to take away from what I have to say here. It all comes down to human decency and respect. So keep that in mind. Remember that words matter. Share love and light and embrace and educate those around you and yourself. Thank you.
Well, I guess you just dropped the mic. I love that. I'm feeling love and light after that. Thank you for sharing that. That was amazing. And we are going to get to a Q&A session here, but before we move on to there, again, let's just discuss the Lancaster City HRC. If you want to get involved, if you want to take part, you can visit the City of Lancaster, Pennsylvania's website. And again, if you are feeling discrimination within the city limits, please give us a call and see how we can mediate the situation. Our contact number is 717-735-6250. Definitely want to thank the other board members and commission members on the call. Mark Stoner, like Dustin said, he's been fighting the good fight for a long time. He's been an ally, a very strong ally. I want to thank TCP, Whitney Lupton, for supporting our efforts and streaming from the TCP network, another network here that is all about empowering people, especially in this time. Like, let's all be our authentic self. So Whitney, do we have any questions we want to discuss or chit chat? What you got for us?
Well, yeah, so we have quite a few comments here in the section, in the comment section on Facebook. So let me just pull those up and we can kind of get started. You guys had the audience going from the very beginning of the discussion. So, Jason had a chance to answer this, but But if you guys have any other resources or knowledge, somebody did ask, is there any voluntary public list of LGBTQIA businesses in the state?
I'm not sure if there's an actual like list through, you know, like the LGBTQ plus coalition, but, you know, I'm on the board of the Keystone Business Alliance, which is Central PA's Chamber of Commerce, or Central PA's LGBTQ plus Chamber of Commerce. And so I dropped the link in the chat here if you wanted to share that with folks. Keystone Business Alliance is actually also part of a national network of LGBTQ plus chambers of commerce.
Yeah, and it is shared in the Facebook comments. I put it in there. And they do have a list.
All right, and our next, some of our other comments included budget, I like gender queer. Someone else said this is quite interesting and informative. Another comment says, so many shades of the rainbow, when you guys were describing the acronyms and what they mean. Somebody wrote, I used to like describing myself as two-spirit, but I have zero indigenous ancestry, so I dropped it. Now I identify as non-binary, bisexual, and genderqueer. Cost hack just sounds fun. So I just want to say, and just reading a lot of these comments as they were coming through, people were really empowered, sharing stories about themselves and their own coming out and how they're living their best lives. Someone else said, if I ever felt that trans youths belong, my teen years would have gone very differently and better, less traumatic.
Although one thing I would like to add there on for Two-Spirit, I'm so glad that someone shared something. Two-Spirit refers to someone who identifies as having both a masculine and feminine spirit, but this is an exclusive indigenous term to describe their sexual gender and or spiritual identity. In other words, if you weren't raised in an indigenous culture, and if you identify as Two-Spirit and you're not an indigenous person, that's called cultural appropriation. Similarly, if you call someone their spirit animal, that is also cultural appropriation. Spirit animal refers to a sacred connection and reverence for nature. If you're not indigenous, I suggest refraining from using both two-spirit and spirit animal.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarification, Ricky. All right, so up next, we do have a question from Ahmad, who's also on the board for the HRC. He says, how can community members who may not know too much about LGBTQ plus affairs best help the causes and issues facing the LGBTQ community? How can we help and take action?
I mean, honestly, the best thing you can do is just do your research, do your homework. Ask those of us who are in the LGBTQIA plus community. Like I said earlier, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm sure there's plenty of information on the pavalues.org as well. Am I correct about that, Jason? They can find those resources on there also. Yeah, the best way to find out is to simply open your mouth and ask, and just do your research. That's all you have to do. Don't be afraid of it. You know, I find it so endearing when people come up to me and they say, you know, will you please help me understand that? That is my job and my purpose in life, as it should be for all of us to get on the same path and move forward. There are so many things that are just in the way that are completely unnecessary. And a lot of that is just a lack of knowledge. So yeah, just reach out to people. You're welcome to get a hold of me via Facebook, Instagram, whatever you'd like. Just leave your information for us in the chat and I'd be happy to reach out to you. That's not a problem.
And I would just say, Ricardo had said a couple things before about writing letters to the editor. You know, the whole anti-trans legislation stuff that's happening now didn't just happen. It's a planned thing to hit all the states at once, so that there's so many laws like this that some slip through. And it really preys on the fear of trans people and people, you know, being uncomfortable. We're so used to defining everyone as male or female and thinking that there's this line between them, that a lot of us don't feel comfortable all the time, or you use inappropriate pronoun for someone because you're not used to it. Most trans people, I think, will be understanding of that if you talk to them about it and educate yourself, as Dustin said. But don't let someone prey on your discomfort or your fears to really, you know, it's the same as any other group that's been marginalized in the past, that they're seen as the other and as different from that. Everybody is the same when it comes down to it. And stepping up and standing up for other marginalized people is what we're all about on any level.
And to add on that, as I mentioned, I'm on the board of the Lancaster LGBTQ+ Coalition. We have several training opportunities, and in fact, I've helped facilitate some of these diversity, equity, and inclusion trainings. And we do offer these for folks, and the course provides you and your team with a basic understanding of LGBTQ+ terminology, experiences, and obstacles, as well as how to be an ally. And we also introduce different concepts from racial bias and privilege, and we explore challenges that our community members face. Folks will also have the opportunity to learn how you can have a positive impact in your day-to-day experiences and learn how to help your organization or business be more inclusive and supportive of LGBTQ+ people. So we have LGBTQ+ Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion 101, 201. We also have Transgender 101, Transgender 201, and even sex ed and sex ed curriculum training through the Lancaster LGBTQ+ Coalition. So if you go to lgbtlancaster.org, you can find all of that information online. So that's lgbtlancaster.org.
I have a few questions that came up while all the panelists were speaking, so I'll just try to take them one by one. First, I really want to get a sense of what has been your experience in our community as far as the way you've been treated, you know, in education, housing, employment, or, you know, is Lancaster a safe space? Would you say that? And maybe I'll just take it one question at a time.
I think so. Lancaster has always been the love of my life. I was born and raised there. I've worked there for the past 18 years. I've always been shown love and respect for who I am. I also incorporated drag in a lot of those businesses and restaurants as well. So, you know, people know me in Lancaster as that entity. But most of my aggression growing up wasn't based on my sexual orientation, but rather my race. So I would say that I was more picked on due to being biracial than I was for being gay. It was actually, it was kind of funny because I was more accepted for being homosexual than I was for being biracial. So yeah, in my experience, as far as being gay in Lancaster, I think Lancaster is a very safe space. I think there's work to be done, as there is to be done anywhere in the United States and all over the world. But Lancaster is a very, very forward-moving city. So I have always felt safe in Lancaster. I always have. There have been small moments of aggression, but nothing that would be life-threatening or anything that has bothered me throughout the rest of my life. So, yeah.
I would also add on to that Lancaster City is much different than Lancaster County. So Lancaster City is, I would say, and I would consider more progressive, more open, more affirming, and also very LGBTQ+. You know, if you drive down certain streets here in Lancaster City, you'll see the progress flag, the rainbow flag, so many different colors. It's amazing. However, you drive 5-10 minutes outside the city, and that's a different story.
That's fair.
Okay, so I have another question, unless Jason had something to say. I didn't want to interrupt you.
Nope, I'm not personally from Lancaster. I'm merely the visitor, but I can second ditto everything that has just been said. I think it's important to know discrimination is real, violence against LGBTQ people is real, and it almost always depends on your circumstances and if you're at the wrong place at the wrong time too. But all of these issues are compounded by your race, by your gender, by your class. Black and brown trans women are exceptionally at risk for violence, and we see these murders every year, and it's heartbreaking and devastating. And so whether it's street harassment and street violence or sexual assault or outright physical attacks against LGBT people, they happen. And harassment in our schools happens too. I have gotten plenty of calls over the years from Lancaster County. And that's why this work is so important in education and in policy together to change the circumstances for everyone, but especially those who are most vulnerable to this harm.
So earlier, Jason, you were talking about the bills that have been presented, but then have any of them been passed? I asked that question. And secondly, how much representation of the LGBTQIA community is in our local legislation? I mean, how many state reps or like senators, are there any? And what does that look like?
Sure. So long story short, for a whole other session, we actually did pass LGBT hate crimes protections in 2002. It was struck down by the Commonwealth Court on a technicality in 2008, but that was passed by a Republican House, Republican Senate, and signed by a Republican governor. We have had this conversation in a nonpartisan way a long time ago, and so that's how we're continuing to try and have it today. But we are at a gridlock on a lot of these issues, and it's about more on the education side to get things done. We have increasing numbers of out LGBT people in local government. York County, Montgomery County have county level folks out. I'm not sure. I don't think there's been an out member in Lancaster City Council. No, Xavier, right? Yeah, we have him, them. I'm not sure what pronounce he uses. They use. Sorry. So yes, you have some representation, and you can probably, others can talk more about that. But there's still, Philadelphia has never had an out LGBT member of City Council. We've had 5 out members in the General Assembly from the House and the Senate. Our first out legislator was Representative Mike Fleck from Huntington County. And he came out in 2012. So yeah, there's a history of representation. We need more representation. We need reflection in all of the bodies that are supposed to represent the public, local government, state government, federal government, and we're getting there. So it's important to run if you can.
I hear calling for some people to get involved in government, local government. Lancaster City has a whole bunch of boards, advisories, commissions. They're always seeking more people that represent our community. We also are seeking a few more people at the Lancaster City Human Relations Commission, and a few more members on the board. And we love to get people that look like us, that are energized. And again, the energy on this call and this presentation, I just love it so much. I'm so happy that Linda Martin, our long-term HRC member, brought Jason to the conversation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have met him. I called my friend Dustin, and he told me about Ricardo. So it's just so serendipitous how everything came together. And I really hope that this was a good session for everyone and anyone that was listening in. I certainly got a lot out of it. I'm very grateful for the board commission at Lancaster City HRC and what we've been doing. I love this town hall meeting. Our next town hall meeting will be in October about voting rights, which are very important to this conversation and every other conversation we have. Again, we want to thank TCP for helping us to stream this and get the word out. So appreciative of their efforts and what they do for us. Do we have anything else to say before I close us out, Miss Whitney?
No, just again, more people saying thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for having these conversations, and a lot of yes, and I can't wait. And so yeah, it seems like everybody on the live is really appreciative of all of the information that you guys gave tonight. So thank you all. I learned something and our audience learned something, and we just all really appreciate you all taking time out of your busy days from advocating for political justice and reform to take a moment to educate our larger community about this.
I have one last thing, one last plug here, since you mentioned voting and elections. So the 2020 primary election is next month, and voter registration deadline is fast approaching. Remember, voters can only vote for candidates in their registered political party for the primaries, but all voters, regardless of party affiliation, can vote for ballot initiatives, such as the 3 proposed constitutional amendments that Pennsylvanians will be asked to vote on this in this year's primary. And so I encourage folks to apply for your no excuse mail-in ballot. So primary election again is Tuesday, May 18th. A voter registration deadline is May 3rd. And the deadline to request an absentee ballot or mail-in ballot is May 11th of this year at 5 p.m. So remember, apply for your no excuse mail-in ballots at votespa.com. And once you register, we challenge you to talk to 3 friends or family members and to share why it's critical for them to take action too. Thank you.
Awesome, because we know our last vote helped change the tide of the country, and I want to continue that. And as we leave this very powerful town hall meeting, I just want to leave us with a quote. I was recently listening into a TED Talk, What the Gay Rights Movement Learned from the Civil Rights Movement, with speaker Yoruba Richin. At their heart, these 2 movements both center on a higher order idea of the fundamental and essential importance of equality. If we want to live in a truly just society, we all need to support each other in the fight for equality. To obtain equal rights for all gay people, we have to fight for civil rights and women's rights and immigration rights and disability rights and so on. When it comes to equality, there's no hierarchy of oppression. It's a powerful and important idea. We won't achieve full equality by merely focusing on our own struggles and ignoring causes that don't seem to involve us. As Nelson Mandela said, to be free is not merely to cast off one's chains, but to live in a way that respects and enhances the freedom of others. Our freedom is inextricably intertwined, and the concept is reflected in the intersectional activism of groups.
I love that. That's awesome.
I thought that captured the moment.
Indeed.
So peace and love, everybody.
Yes, indeed. Love and light.
Thank you.